Hello everybody, welcome to 2CTV, your global news channel. We come to you guys with some breaking news. The Islamic Republic of Iran is to attack the American bases in the Chagos Islands. President Trump is preparing to hit back by informing the US Air Force about the upcoming operation in Iran, and the Iranian people are taking advantage of the weakness of the Irgc by escalating their Uprising. Ladies and gentlemen, there's so much to cover today. Obviously, the Iranian regime, desperate, losing left, right, and center. So they thought, what do we do? Let's target the Chagos Islands. Yeah, perfect opportunity to do this, to poke the bear. The UK and US bases are still there, obviously, and that's not going to change. In regards to the escalation, it is, in fact, the ball is in the court of Iran. The Islamic Republic have a choice, a quite clear choice. Either surrender your nuclear program and your agenda to wipe out Israel off the map, or President Trump is coming for you. President Trump said, ideally I don't want to do this, but if you're going to push me, then obviously we're going to have to consider all options. So in this live stream, we're going to go through all the details that we have. We're going to get your reaction live as well. Welcome to the show, guys. So first things first, they are now going to be targeting the naval bases, the US naval bases on Diego Garcia, which is in the Chagos Island, part of the Chagos Islands. This base is currently hosting multiple B-2 bombers. Now, this simply means that the US has enough time, alongside their partners, the UK, to actually prepare the air defense and the naval defense in general in the Chagos Islands. The point is, President Trump gave an ultimatum to the Iranian regime. Said, you've got a few weeks to sort things out. He also sent them a letter, which they ignored. The Iranian regime have also now rejected any sort of negotiation with America. President Trump said, okay, well, the clock is ticking. It's up to you. If you don't, we're going to have to eliminate your nuclear capabilities. So the Iranian regime said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to spin the message saying the Americans want to attack us and we want to do self-defense. That's not really the case, obviously. This is the propaganda that the regime in Tehran has created. Meanwhile, President Trump obviously is continuing his warnings to the Islamic occupiers of Iran. Let's go to the president.
Iran is very high on my list of things to watch, and as you probably know, I sent them a letter just recently, and I said you're going to have to make a decision one way or the other, and we're going to either have to talk it out, or very bad things are going to happen to Iran, and I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. My big preference, and I don't say this through strength or weakness, my big preference is we work it out with Iran. But if we don't work it out, bad things are going to happen to Iran.
It's interesting that the Iranian regime have chosen to choose the Chagos Islands as one of their threats, right? Considering that the Chinese Communist Party is now coming into play to own the Chagos Islands, right? That's the plan through the Mauritius. That simply means that the Iranian regime has the consent of Beijing. And we're going to talk about that because obviously China and Russia, from their perspective, they have to protect the Islamic occupiers. That's part of their strategy anyway. So some people thought that, well, Iran is going to make China angry. Not really, because this is also part of the CCP's plan. And we're going to explain that in a second. In regards to the IRGC themselves, the Navy commander has said no one can attack us and escape. I'm not really sure if the Americans were planning to escape, but okay. Even if we have to pursue them into the Gulf of Mexico, we will. Now, for the record, he said the Gulf of Mexico on purpose to trigger President Trump. Now, these guys are pretending to be the big dogs, right? They are claiming that, the Americans want to come and hit us and they're going to run away, but we're going to hunt them down. You don't even have proper missiles. Everything you have is so old school. And even your drones that you've given to Russia, they keep failing like idiots. I'm not really sure what these guys are thinking. You want to hunt down the Americans. Good luck with that. Now, in terms of the actual leadership, The Iranian regime and the president has rejected direct talks with obviously Trump and Americans. They have decided to say that what we're going to do, we're just going to ignore it and continue our nuclear program. President Pezeshkian also confirmed Iran's response was delivered via Oman as a third party, leaving only indirect talks on the table. Now, Trump has said that Iran must never obtain nuclear weapons as Tehran continues to enrich uranium to near weapons grade levels. Now, the interesting thing about this is that the Iranian regime are now using the Arab world as the proxy, or essentially the third party. The official route for diplomatic talks with the US and the West is usually Switzerland. Now, why is it that the Iranian regime are using countries like Oman? The point of this is that they want to be in control. They believe that even using Switzerland as a third party is basically a Western symbol. So they would rather use Oman and other countries in the Persian Gulf to send a message to the US. It's these tiny things that they're doing that they think they're being clever, including saying Gulf of Mexico. Well, they're saying it because President Trump is now calling it the Gulf of America, right? Now, none of this actually matters in regard to how the Iranian regime is going to be responding, right? Now, we can go to a speech from a couple of days ago from the Irgc commander, who was, well, we got the subtitles, whatever, we got English subtitles for you guys, but it's trying to be robust. I'm not really sure it's convincing. Let's watch. By the way, this is about him also threatening Israel to wipe it out off the map.
دشمنان از وجود شما بسیجیان دریایی ترس دارند. راه فرار آنها را از طریق دریا مسدود خواهید کرد. چون الحاق شما انشاءالله با بسیج دریایی جهان اسلام استخوان‌های پوسیده صهیونیست ها را خرد خواهد کرد. بسیج دریایی سپاه این مردان دلاور و از جان گذشته و شجاع و ولایت مدار سواحل شمال جنوب کشور سوار بر قایق‌ها و شناورهای ایمان در رکاب رهبر و فرمانده شجاعمان هستند که دریا را برای صهیونیست‌ها به جهنم تبدیل کنند انشاءالله. و فرمان امامین انقلاب.
I was really expecting them to start chanting at the end of that, saying, yeah, we're going to wipe out the Zionists, all the Jews, inshallah. I thought they're going to go, ooh, Alan Snackbar. Nope. I clearly didn't read the room right. So, or maybe they're all falling asleep because that guy is so boring. Anyway, so they're saying all that. Apparently they want to turn the water into fire. Not really sure. They're not Moses, and he didn't do fire, just split the sea. But the ambition aside from the Iranian regime, the uprising continues across the world, by the way, because you've got the Iranians inside Iran, you've got the Iranians outside Iran showing solidarity. They are taking advantage of the weakness of the IRGC. They're going around, obviously escalating the uprising. And the media is not really showing this, even in terms of the solidarity around the world. But we have to, because the media is not doing its job. Let's watch this. Now, meanwhile, the Chinese Communist Party and the Kremlin obviously had to step up their game, because they have to find a way to use Iran as their proxy to oppose President Trump. Trump is not too happy right now with Putin and obviously President Xi, but the idea that these guys have, both when it comes to China and Russia, is that obviously with Trump's ultimatum that was delivered a couple of weeks ago on the 7th of March, we now have a couple of months deadline, right? Beijing and Moscow have simply been accelerating Iran's efforts to join the nuclear club. Both the Russian side and the Chinese side are now pushing to ensure that the Iranian regime obtain nuclear as soon as possible. There was a meeting between the Iranians and the Chinese officials in Beijing, which was obviously followed by Ali Khamenei's rejection of Trump's warnings. This obviously does signal kind of dangerous developments in regards to what the CCP and the Kremlin obviously are doing just to poke the bear. It's simply to oppose President Trump. The idiocy of both Moscow and Beijing is that same mistake that the CIA made in the 1970s when they propped up the Islamic Republic and when they overthrew the Shah. They thought that they could control the Islamists. I don't understand why these guys think that the relationship that China and Russia has with Iran is going to always remain the same. If you somehow empower the Islamic Republic, which by the way is not really going to happen because they don't even know how to run their own country, that the economy is in a mess, the currency is collapsing, it's literally right now the worst currency that you have in the world, like worse than Venezuela and North Korea. Put that aside. Hypothetically, if let's just say you can empower the IRGC, they're going to become strong. Do you really think that the IRGC is going to continue to be a lapdog of China and Russia? No, you've now given them nuclear, they're going to start threatening you. These people have no shame. They believe in their Islamic ideology. If they want to, they could actually target even Beijing. Now, it would be a stupid idea, but I'm just saying in a scenario that the Iranian regime somehow is now powerful. Or perhaps both China and Russia do know that, well, this is just a bit of a gesture, but the Iranian regime can't actually become a close to becoming any power, let alone a superpower. So they're simply doing this to provoke the Americans and President Trump. But again, we have to wait and see because it's all linked to the negotiations over Ukraine. So let's just get some reaction from you lovely, lovely humans. And the trolls, of course. First super chat, thank you, saying, I've been waiting for the subject of the Chagos Islands to come up. So sus. Yeah, I mean, it's just convenient for the Iranian regime to suddenly talk about the Chagos Islands. We know why they're doing this. Because it's not really the first option on the table. For the Iranian regime, if they want to hit US bases, the US bases are everywhere in the Middle East. They don't have to target the Chagos Islands. It's on purpose. It's to poke the bear. And Jenny says, did you forget something, Tusi? Did I? I don't know. Oh, is it about the chat from Discord? No, because I was not here. I was out. I was actually at the bar mitzvah. So we missed the 9 p.m. Chat with the members of Tusi Plus. We're doing it after this. The live stream was delayed. What's going on? Wearing masks. Oh yeah, this is about the Iranian regime. They're still wearing. In their defense, they really care about public health. They care about the China virus. Come on, guys. What is this? Dwayne says, unless we free the people of Iran, we will always face the same issue. Yes, but it's not the job of the West, the Americans or whatever, to go and liberate the Iranians. That would be a terrible idea. This is the fight for the Iranians to finish the job. They simply need some support, and that includes the international media to cover their uprising and their protests and everything else. At the end of the day, the only way I can see, well, one of the main ways I can see the Iranian regime collapsing, which will be, by the way, not that long. I'll give it maximum 2 years, but it will be within the next year. Is either Israel or the US or somebody in self-defense weaken the basis of the IRGC, then there will be, obviously, an eternal infighting at the top of the regime. And you've got two sides. You've got the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. These are the people who are technically in charge. But you also have the official armed forces. So you've got the actual official army of the country. They are still, right now, technically on paper, part of the regime because they have to answer to the president and the supreme leader. But a lot of these people, they're simply people, Iranian people who are serving in the armed forces. And the generals, if they have an opportunity, that's when things are going to kick off between the military and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. Because both sides are armed. Normal people are not armed. This is what happens when normal people don't have a right to bear arms. They get slaughtered by a tyrannical regime. That's the problem for the Iranians because they don't have guns, but the military has. And when the time comes, they will fight against the IRGC, and I can assure you that the military would win. Nancy says, I'm not sending any more super chats, Maya. I keep getting overcharged, and yes, I'm pissed. How does YouTube overcharge? How do they do that? Well, I don't know. I'm not in charge of the super chat, so I'm not really sure how YouTube works. But I thought you just put the, I don't know, like 10p or whatever the minimum is for the super chats to come up. Unfortunately, I'm not really in control of that. What else do we have? Dolly Holiday says Iran should be returned to King Reza. Yes, of course. Well, he's the King Reza Shah II, and he's the rightful king. But the idea he has is currently leading the revolution, and he wants to be the advocate for the people and the revolution to ensure that he can help with the transition period. And the idea that the Iranians have, unlike what happened in Libya or Iraq or Syria, those places are completely chaotic. In Iran, you don't really have any threat of a vacuum being created in terms of vacuum of power, like somehow like terrorist takeover. It's not Iraq, but also the culture. So look at Libya, look at Iraq, look at Syria. They didn't necessarily culturally, they didn't really have liberal democracy or certain levels of human rights. So you go to Iraq in 2003, you bring down Saddam and you tell the Iraqis, here's an election, have fun with democracy. Yeah, it's going to be mayhem because they weren't even ready for it. You can't impose democracy on people. But the Iranian people obviously had constitutional monarchy, they had parliamentary democracy, they had the first Charter of Human Rights. They were the first, obviously, democracy that they created in that region. So they know. And right now, the Iranian people, or what we call the opposition, they've already pre-prepared the constitution. So it's not really like, oh, what's going to happen after the Islamic Revolution? They already have a plan. And the constitution that's pre-prepared is essentially going back to basics, going back to the values that Iran had, and obviously the Persian Empire. So that is the big difference. So there won't be any necessarily a vacuum in that sense. And again, you've had the same situation with some of the Eastern European countries after the Soviet Union fell. There wasn't really any vacuum. They still had years of corruption, but at least they had democracy. Super chats, I missed a few, sorry guys. We got Peter from Australia saying, hello Maya. Pete from, it's not Australia actually. Oh yeah, Tasmania. Thank you so much for that. We have another one saying Iran hasn't learned the lessons painfully learned by Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan in 1945. Why is it not to poke the bear? Or yeah, probably. If you're talking about that, then yes, they haven't. RG says, sadly, Erdogan is there to replace the IRGC. Imagine if that was even an option. Replace the IRGC as the new modern evil by locking up and offering opposition. Just today, he practically declared war on Israel. Yeah, but there is not even a 1% chance that Erdogan will take over Iran and replace the IRGC. Of all things that could happen, like Santa could come down and become the new CEO of Meta and Facebook. That's more likely than Erdogan replacing the IRGC. On so many levels, that just doesn't work anyway. That's not even on the table. Erdogan, it's not even a thing. No one's even mentioned now. That's not going to happen. Scott says, carpet world was never the same after the IRGC took over. Such a carpet world. Yeah, well, I mean, everything changed in regards to... Someone said, obviously, so many years had parts of Australia. Yeah, we know that. That's why at first I didn't read it. I was like, that's not Australia. Then I realized it's Australia. What was I saying now? See, you keep distracting me with nonsense. Yes, in regards to the carpet world, the problem we have is that 1979, which again, the CIA, France, MI6, these guys have to respond, but they answer some serious questions. These guys completely changed not just the region. It's not just the so-called carpet world. which is quite stereotypical. It would change the face of the world and everything in terms of geopolitics. And one of the main concerns that a lot of people have is, we can't really trust the Western globalists to do anything. So just stay away. Nobody asked you to go and liberate people. It's a terrible idea. Look after your own people first, and make sure you don't deal with these guys in terms of business partners. The European Union with Erdogan, the US Democrats with the IRGC. Stop it. Stop. It's just insane. That's all you have to do. Just stop treating Iran like a partner, like a friend, and everything will be fine. Now, no one outside of the White House knows truly every law currently in the US with a barrage of executive orders by Trump. Well, that's out of context. I don't know what that's about, but thanks for that. Pikesby says what's really going on is that the globalists are trying to foment a war with Iran again in order to slow down Trump's domestic policy. It won't work. The globalists would not want a war with Iran. The globalists want a war with everybody else apart from Iran, but for obvious reasons. It's in the interest of the Western globalists and Eastern globalists to keep the IRGC in Iran. That's why they've been preventing any sort of conflict with Iran. Even when Israel was about to defend itself, President Biden was like, no, you do not touch Iran. It's a terrible idea. It's against our interests. Everything's going to collapse. They would rather have a weak enemy in Iran than a strong, independent, equal partner. And this hasn't really changed since the 1980s. Arel says, I'm listening to you, Maya, while I'm in a bus in Jerusalem. Our driver is Islamic and has his Islamic music blasting from the speakers. Is it because it's Eid? Why is the driver of the bus imposing his music choice onto the rest of the passengers? It makes no sense. Who's saying Zionist? Laura says, please stop calling the Zionists. They are Jews. You are hateful. Is Laura talking to me? Because I'm very confused about this. Because I actually haven't used the word Zionist tonight. Also, Zionists are Jews. Get used to it. Please stop calling the Zionists. Calling them what? They are Jews. Yes, well done. You are hateful. I'm too tired for this nonsense. All right, guys, just listen better. I don't... Anyway. RG says, by replacing the IRGC, I'm referring to them being the new head of the snake. They won't be. They are the oldest member of NATO and the strongest military wise. No, they're not. Turkey is not going to be a real threat. Firstly, Erdogan's regime is falling apart. Not necessarily that he's going to go tomorrow, but there's absolutely no support from the Turkish people. If you want to be a superpower, even on a regional level, you must ensure that your people have your backing. And you have the people's backing. Otherwise, there's no way you can actually manage any part of the world. Erdogan's regime itself will be imploding eventually. Even if the similar type of people take over, which they won't, the other side will take over in Turkey and the pro-democrats. And it is also in the interest of the Western side, the rest of NATO, to ensure that Erdogan doesn't survive. Let's just say. Now, they don't necessarily have to take him out, but because Turkey, by default, is part of NATO. For obvious reasons, you cannot just randomly get rid of NATO, Turkey from NATO. You can't. It's not an easy thing to do. So the best thing you have to do is to make sure Turkey is in the hands of pro-democrats rather than Erdogan. So they're going to ensure that happens. Yeah, it's not really a big threat. He thinks he is. He thinks he's bringing back the Ottoman Empire. With what power? Idiots. Anthony says that she's right. We are all Zionists, which means Jewish. Yes. It just makes no sense why that comment exists on tonight's live stream. Considering we were talking about Iran and the US. Nobody mentioned the lovely Zionists. Charlotte says Turkey is going to hell. Well, the Turkish regime, at least, yeah. Morgan says, why are the globalists doing it? the world becomes communist, the elites take full power. Not necessarily communist, but authoritarian corporatist. Yeah, I mean, there's a slight difference. At the end of the day, it's still control. So the reason people call corporatist globalists communists is because I think a lot of people assume the only example of tyranny we've had in the history of humanity is communism somehow. So anybody who's tyrannical, they're like, it's communist. But you've had tyranny before and after communism. The issue with the corporatist globalists, or what we call the globalists, their issue is that they want control because they believe, and they're kind of right to what sense, the world is globalized anyway. You know, it's easier to travel. I've been saying this for a long time. It's easier to travel, access to information. You can watch from around the world. You can trade with other countries easier than the 17th century or 16th century. That's the natural part of the world being globalized. That's different. Political globalism is that they believe that, well, if it's already globalized, let's make sure we control it. Let's make sure that we manage it because people are plebs. You can't trust them. And then meanwhile, our friends could take advantage. Obviously, the similarities between these guys, the corporatist globalists, and what we call Marxists or communists, the only similarity that they have is that they're both internationalists. They both believe in one world order. That was the only difference, obviously, with the National Socialists in Germany. The policies were basically the same. They were socialists, but in Germany it was about the nation. Just do the socialism in Germany, as opposed to just expanding to the world. Then Hitler went crazy. But having said that, the rest of the policies won't necessarily be communist because corporations will have control, not the workers, not any like some sort of utopian nonsense that Karl Marx was ranting about. He was probably drunk anyway. It's in a whole different level of tyranny. You've had tyranny before Marxism. You will have tyranny after Marxism. Not all tyranny is communism or Marxism, but I don't blame people for just call it communism, saying, oh, you're a commie, because it's easy as an insult. But you have to know their motive. You have to understand why they're doing this. They understand it from their perspective, the enemy's perspective. They are the enemy to our way of life if you want to actually truly oppose them and challenge them. If you just go around calling everybody, I don't know, Nazi, you won't really know how they're going to do what they're going to do. Obviously, like there have been part of the corporatist globalists, you have people who are extremely liberal, left-wing liberal. You have people who are Marxists, like Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab, who was the head of the WF, was a Marxist. He literally had the bust of Lenin in his office. So you do have Marxists. You do have those who are corporatists, believe in corporations taking control. But you also have those who don't actually understand economics. Like, you have to actually understand economics to be able to say, I'm going to do communism, or I'm going to do corporatism, or I'm going to do free market capitalism. Some of them are just weird people who just want power and control. The likes of Bill Gates, for example. The weird people. God complex. We have one of our favorite trolls in the live chat. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Say welcome to RJ's Clips, saying Iran will attack America when Maya more fees becomes a credible news source. That's not English, by the way. That is terrible, terrible writing. Maya is supposed to be Maya, as in my name, which is not like that. But the grammar, okay, let's just figure this out. I have to translate these idiots. Iran will attack America when, okay, that makes sense. Maya, more fees becomes a credible news source. I get the last bit. So basically it's saying when I become a credible news source. That is not a good idea then. So the best thing I should do for the sake of humanity is to ensure this channel never becomes a credible news source. That way we can prevent Iran attacking America. It's just a stupid thing to say. Anyway, Iran and Yemen are in the hands of Alibaba and the 40 thieves. They're all thieves, guys. They're all thieves. God, where is the RJ's Clips? Can someone teach him to actually type English? By the way, this guy is a Nigel Farage loyalist. That's why he doesn't like us. Because he says, no, you have to be a tribalist. You have to pick my political party. You cannot criticize my dear Nigel Farage. Like, I don't care about your parties. I don't care about your dear leaders. I will criticize everybody equally. It's called equality. Where is he? Is he back? Please tell me he's back. I'm in a mood. Yeah, I think he's given up. Poor guy. It's okay. Now, yeah, it's given up. Anyway, let's just let him rest, because it's been a long day for him. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to keep you guys posted on this development. Obviously, it's all going to be escalating, especially in the next few days. I do not believe, personally, that the Iranian regime will be stupid enough to actually hit Diego Garcia. But if they do decide to do it, well, they're just helping to accelerate President Trump's plans. Subscribe to 2C TV if you haven't already. I'm Maya 2C, and we are the media.